Italian cast-on, also known as tubular cast-on, is a method used for ribbing. It is elastic, and it has the ability to blend in with the texture of the 1x1 rib stitch, creating this beautiful edge. So to make the Italian cast-on, the first step is to make sure to leave a tail of yarn approximately 3 to 4 times the width of my project. I measure this by wrapping the yarn around the needle 10 times to know the amount of yarn used for 10 stitches. Then, I multiply by folding the yarn to reach the full length. In this case, I need 36 stitches. So I wrap the yarn 12 times and multiply by folding the yarn 3 times. I unfold the tail and make sure to hold my fingers at the point I just measured out. And now, I have enough yarn to start the cast on. And so it is time for step 2, how to hold the yarn. Usually I make sure to keep the yarn tail towards myself and the skein away from myself, but in this case I will do the opposite. You will see why later in the video. So, I keep the yarn tail away from myself, still holding the point of my measure. I lay the yarn strand in the palm of my hand, and I grab it with these 3 fingers. I wrap the yarn behind my thumb and then behind my index finger. At last, I interlock the yarn with my middle finger like this, and now the yarn creates this triangular shape. I take my right needle and bring it under the yarn and in between the thumb and index finger. And now, the triangle turned into a V shape instead. This leads me to step 3, casting on stitches. To make it easier to explain, I will call this one the first strand and this one the second strand. Now there are 2 different cast-on stitches to this method, a knit stitch and a purl stitch. I will start by casting on a knit stitch, and to do this, I bring my needle towards myself and under the first strand. I cross over the second strand, catch it with my needle, and I bring it home. As you can see, the first cast on leaves me with 2 stitches on my needle. These 2 stitches really count as one, and I will knit them together later. So now it is time to make a purled cast on stitch. So this time I bring my needle away from myself and under both strands. I catch the first strand and I gently bring it home. Now I have made my first 2 stitches, and I simply just repeat until I have the number of stitches I need. So just remember that bringing the needle towards yourself is the knit stitch, and away from yourself is the purl stitch. So I just continue my cast on, and because I started with a knit stitch, I will finish with a purl. And after the last stitch, we are ready for step 4, stabilizing the stitches. No matter if my project is knitted flat or in the round, I prefer to knit 2 rows back and forward to stabilize the edge. This makes the fabric so much easier to work with. And now, you'll see why I chose to hold the yarn tail away from myself. When you cast on like this, the last stitch will always be open, so we need to close it off before knitting. As you can see, the yarn tail is behind my needle, and the yarn from the skein is in front of my needle. I want these 2 to switch places and interlock each other, so I twist the yarn towards the left and around the tail. And now, the last stitch is locked and ready to knit. To make the edge chunky like this, I knit 1 and slip the next stitch purlwise with the yarn in front. I do this by knitting my first stitch, as I usually would do. Then, I enter the next stitch purlwise with my right needle, keeping the yarn in front of my work. Gently, I slip the stitch onto my right needle, and now the yarn strand lies in front of the purled stitch. And now I just continue doing this until I reach the 2 last stitches. These are my first cast on, the 2 stitches that really count as one. So, very gently, I slip these 2 onto my right needle at the same time. Then I turn my work again, and carefully I knit the 2 stitches together. I will slip the next stitch purlwise with the yarn in front of my needle, and I am ready to just continue as before. Slowly I can see how the bulky edge begins to appear. Now the stitches are stabilized, and you can easily continue knitting, no matter if your project is worked flat or in the round. In this case, I am making a pair of fingerless gloves, so it is time for step 5, joining in the round. You can use circular needles or double-pointed needles, whatever you prefer. But when I create projects with a small circumference like this, I sometimes find it easier to use double-pointed needles. So I start by evenly distributing the stitches onto 3 different needles. Then I make sure that all of my stitches are facing the same way and that they are not twisting around. I add a stitch marker to my right needle, and I am ready to start working on my regular 1x1 ribbing, knit and purl. When I am done knitting my project, I just need to weave in the end. As you can see, there is an opening in the fabric where I was joining in the round. The tail of yarn is to the left of the opening, so I bring it towards the right and catch the loop of the neighbor stitch. I gently pull the yarn to check if it looks right. Then I turn to the back side and catch the loops towards the right and the left of the opening. I pull the yarn, and the row is completely closed off. Then I turn the project inside out to weave in the end. I start by finding the closest knit stitch on the back side. Then I catch the loops vertically with my needle by gently wrapping it around in circular movements. I continue until I feel like the yarn is secured, and to finish it off, I sometimes make a small knot. The end is weaved in, and I'm left with this beautiful edge made with the Italian cast on. If you have any questions or requests for other tutorials, please feel free to leave a comment below. Thank you so much for watching.